Hello, it's me, Caveman. Lately, I've been wondering how to create a decent enemy behavior system, so I decided to try it myself. From what I know, enemy AI generally follows a few key behaviors. First, there's the wander state. In this state, the enemy just roams around, waiting for the player to pass by before engaging in combat. Second, if the player enters the enemy's detection range, it transitions to the chase state. Here, the enemy moves toward the player, closing the distance until it's within attack range. Third, once the enemy reaches its minimum attack range, it enters the attack state. At this point, it plays its attack animation, enables its hitbox to determine if it lands a hit or misses, and then resets back to its first state, rather than attacking continuously. Fourth, an enemy should have at least more than one type of attack. This makes its behavior less predictable and more engaging for the player. So, I decided to create a simple boss character with a clear attack pattern. It follows the usual progression: wander state, chase state, attack state. But I wanted to make things more interesting. So, during the wander state, I created a list of different attacks and stored them in an array. When the wander state times out, the boss randomly selects its next move and enters the corresponding state. For example, I added a charge state. Instead of chasing, the enemy immediately dashes toward the player. If it lands a hit, the player is knocked back. However, if the enemy collides with a wall instead, it enters a stunned state, leaving it vulnerable for a short time before resetting back to the wander state. To make the fight even more dynamic, I introduced Rage Mode. Rage Mode activates when the enemy's health drops below a certain threshold, like 50% or 25%. When enraged, the enemy becomes much more aggressive. The interval between attacks shortens. Its movement speed increases. Its attacks deal more damage. And to make it visually clear, I might add some effects, so the player knows that the enemy is really mad and about to go all out. And that wraps up my enemy behavior experiment. I know there might be a cleaner way to do it, which is why I never stop reading and watching tutorials. Now that I think about it, I've really learned a lot. I can finally implement my ideas without always relying on my buddy's help or searching for specific tutorials. I just take everything I've learned and put it together. And now, I think I'm ready to make my first real game because honestly, I've never actually finished a full game project. Everything I've made so far has just been experiments, little crashes into different aspects of Godot's basics. But this time, I'm challenging myself to create a game from start to finish. And this channel, it'll be my diary, documenting every step of that journey. To start, I planned everything out in my notebook, the good old pen and paper method, completely offline, without any influence from the internet. And after some time away, I finally came up with a game idea. My plan is to keep it simple, no overcomplicated mechanics, just something achievable. Because let's be honest, every beginner has incredible ideas. We all dream of making the next game of the year, maybe even the best selling game of all time. But too often, those ideas stay just that: ideas. They never materialize. because the process of making our dream game is incredibly tough, especially as a solo developer or even within a small team. So, I always remind myself, don't bite off more than you can chew. And with that in mind, here's what I've come up with. I really love top down games, so I decided to use this setup for my project. By the way, what do you call this specific type of top down perspective? I couldn't find the answer online, so if you know, let me know in the comments. Alright, I started by creating a player character that can move using the directional buttons and always faces the mouse cursor. However, the sprite looked like a floating body, so I added leg animations to make it feel more natural. Next, I implemented shooting mechanics using the hit scan method. Instead of firing physical projectiles, a raycast detects whether the shot hits something, but with just that, it wasn't clear if the player actually fired a bullet. To fix this, I added a line tracer using line 2D, which visually imitates the bullet's path, making it feel like a very fast projectile flying across the screen. I also added muzzle flashes and impact lights when bullets hit walls or hard surfaces, making the shooting feel more realistic and visually satisfying. Then, I worked on the reloading system. Since the player is using a World War I era revolver, I made the reload time depend on how many bullets were fired. For example, if the player shoots only one bullet and reloads, they will reload just one round. But if they fire all 6 rounds, they will have to reload 6 times. To add an extra touch of realism, I also included bullet shell ejections, where empty shells drop to the floor during reloading. Next, I introduced Light 2D, an essential element for creating a dark, atmospheric ambience and adding contrast to the game. I also added a light occluder to the player character, allowing it to cast shadows when passing near a light source. This small detail makes the environment feel more immersive and dynamic. Then, I implemented the vision system, often called fog of war in RTS games. This further intensifies the eerie atmosphere. Since this game blends survival horror and shooter elements, fog of war plays a crucial role in adding tension and an element of surprise for the player. And that's it for now. Before I go, I just want to say thank you to the entire Godot community. Everyone has been incredibly kind and supportive, especially to those just starting out. And to all the beginners out there, just like me, let's keep moving forward at our own pace. Keep pushing, keep learning, and eventually, we'll get there. Good luck!